organizers, what is the topic? And they said, inspiring stories about our lives so that the younger ones will learn from them. And up until this morning, I didn't know what to tell them. I don't know if my life is that interesting. And in the car, I asked my friend Said over there, I said, what do you think I should tell them? And this morning, I was reading an e-book sent to me by Sheikh Nuruddin Lemu about the job forecast for 2025 by World Economics Forum. And they were talking about how AI and other new technologies are going to disrupt employment. However, one thing or two things they mentioned, that if you have those attributes, then you are going to be saved. And one is creativity. And the second one is resilience. That is patience or self-control. So, in my talk, I'm going to discuss the Islamic principles of patience and what psychology says about that. But first, the background, right? When I was a young person, I wanted to be many things. And alhamdulillah, I've been all the things I wanted to be. To prepare myself, I got several degrees so that I could do many of those things. My father, when I was a child, told me that you see journalists, they can break a nation and they can unite a nation. I said, that is tremendous power. I want that power. I said I wanted to be a journalist, and I became a journalist. I was Southeast Asia correspondent for the Daily Trust newspaper. And because growing up we didn't have too much money, I wanted to read books that I could not afford. I wanted to be a librarian, right? So I became a librarian in a STEM school, right? I wanted to be a data scientist. I wanted to work on oil and gas. Even though I'm not an oil engineer, I led software design team for Malaysia's oil company. It's called Petronas. Yeah? And Petronas is the best managed oil company in the world. It's smaller than our NNPC, but it's richer than our NNPC. Right? And this, to be able to work there is a privilege. I'm telling you this because you are going to graduate from school, maybe at the age of 17, 19, then you do another 4 years in the university. That is, if university is still necessary by the time you graduate, right? Because things are changing rapidly. The next year, you see, maybe the entire secondary education is rendered redundant. But from status quo, if you continue, you spend like 4 years in the university. By that time, you are in your 20s. That is when you should experiment. You do whatever you want to do. Take risks, because at that time, you do not have responsibilities, right? So you can afford to fail. So fail, succeed, fail, succeed. Gather all these experiences, and then when you are in your 30s, or late 20s, you get married and settle down, right? Then you cannot afford, especially for the boys, you cannot afford a lot of failures. By that time, you are supposed to niche down to a few expertise. If you are an engineer, you become a better engineer than any other person, right? Then in your 40s, that is when you choose what you are going to do for the rest of your life. And I'm going to tell you the story of how I came about my own decision, right? But in doing all this in your 20s, even as teenagers, you must be a generalist, right? And there are three things at least that you need to be good in. And we saw a demonstration of one of them, today. An MIT professor gave an analogy. He said, if a commander, a general, sends his soldiers into battle without weapons, that commander is sending his troops to what? To their death. Because you cannot fight a war without weapons. And he said, as a consequence, that general, that commander, should be court-martialed. He said the same thing applies to schools. If a school graduates students into the real world is a battleground, right? It's a very, very difficult place. Now your parents are doing everything for you. You don't know what they go through. But once you graduate into the real world, then you know that it's a difficult place. And the only place for us to rest is Al-Jannah. May Allah grant us Al-Jannah. So, he said, if any school graduates students into the battlefield of the real world without 3 weapons, then that school should be court-martialed, or whatever is the equivalent consequence of that. The first, in order of their importance, the first one is what? Is public speaking. If you can speak in public, and you can talk to anybody, people will eat out of your hands. You can get people to do anything. You become like a witch, a wizard. And you become influential. A few of our students came up on stage earlier, and we all had our assumptions about them, the way they dress, the way, is this one going to speak well? And alhamdulillah, all of them spoke well, right? And immediately, our perception of them changed. This must be very smart students, right? That is how politicians win elections. Some of them are not smart at all, but they can talk. They can talk. I remember when we were in politics around 2014, 2013, I just came back into Nigeria, and my friend wanted to be House of Reps member. I wanted to be State Assembly member. And we were told of a strategist, a politician who's been long in the business. So we invited him. And he came to my friend's place. And he told my friend that he was actually moving house from where he was. And the way the guy spoke, And he strategized how my friend was going to win the election. My friend was already sold. And when he was leaving, he removed the big screen, the big TV in his living room. He said, "You are moving out?" He said, "Yes." "Okay, take the TV." You know? And you need some money, and he gave him the money. My friend didn't win that election. But because the way this guy presented himself, and he presented his ideas, you could get anything from my friend. All right? So if you can talk, you get a lot of things done. And as future leaders, you need to learn how to speak in public. You can't even do dawah if you can't speak in public. You can't be like people like Haji Arama if you can't speak in public, right? Yes, you can't be a good teacher if you can't speak in public. So everybody, this is non-negotiable. We can negotiate the other two I'm going to mention, but you cannot negotiate this. And I can teach you a few templates of how to quickly speak in public. Like right now, you were given a challenge of impromptu speaking. You answered correctly. But next time, when you are asked to talk about something, you take that thing and structure it into 3 parts, right? You said the past of that thing, the present of that thing, and the future of that thing. Esteem was started more than 20 years ago, actually, not 2015. But the secondary section was started in 2015, right? So you talk about the past. Esteem used to be a very vibrant school in the last 20 years. Then there was a need for us to start a secondary section. So we started the secondary section. Then you talk about the secondary section as it is now. As you talk about Esteem Q. Then you talk about the future. Now, right now we have graduates who are doctors, who are engineers, they are central bankers. We have them all over the world. Indeed, sometimes when I travel abroad, because I taught at Esteem primary school, I have students from all over the world that they will visit me in my hotel room because I keep in touch with them, right? So that is the future. You talk about the future, probably one day, inshallah, we'll produce one of the presidents of the country. Since nobody knows the future, you just paint the future the way you want it, right? So that is one. That is one template you can use. What did I call it? The past, the present, and what? And the future. And the second one is, and you can use this even for writing. You come on stage, you say, today I'm going to talk about something. That is the introduction. Then you tell the audience about that thing. That is the body, right? Then you tell the audience that you've told them about that thing. That is what? The conclusion. Also 3 parts, right? So tell the audience what you want to tell them, then tell them that you've told them. It's as easy as that, right? Or tell them a story, and then you bring out the moral of the story, and you leave the stage. In fact, the story will stay longer with the people, and that is why our religious books are filled with stories, right? And all the bestsellers, non-fiction bestsellers on Amazon, all of them are storybooks, right? So these are a few templates that you can use, a few structures that you can use to learn how to speak in public, even if it is impromptu. If you want more of them, some of your schools have my book, Impromptu Speaking Genius. You should consult them. Now, I say according to the order of importance, the second thing that the professor said schools should teach their students is writing, the ability to write. I also wanted to be a writer. I became a columnist for Daily Trust newspaper for more than 20 years, right? Since I was just barely out of my teenage years. So I did that for 2 decades, and most of my network is from writing. There was a time I wrote something, I started a series, then I received a text message, and the text message said, the Sultan wants you to suspend the series. So no writer wants to be told what he should write, especially a columnist. So I was annoyed when I saw that. I said, now who is this? He said, the Sultan. So I sent the number to my friend who works with the Supreme Council. I said, whose number is this? He said, it's Sultan's number. Right? It was that day I learned that even the Sultan read my column. And then from there, generals, governors, ministers, that's how I was able to, made my network from writing. But writing is not as important as public speaking. You can you can be very successful, well off in life without knowing how to write, if you know how to speak. Especially now that we have AI. AI can write for you, right? Can do a lot of writing for you, even though what AI writes is not as good as what a skilled writer can write. It's usually boring, right? But it will get better. And the third skill that the professor said every school must teach students is creativity. Creativity. How to generate ideas. And how do you do that? How do you generate ideas? In Islam, there is something that is valued, right? And that is working, right? There is a hadith that says, if you take your bath on Friday and you leave home very early and you walk towards the Friday mosque, every step you take, you will get a reward for 1,000 years of worship. Some scholars said there is no hadith that promises that much reward. So I live in Mina. So every Friday by 12 noon, I leave my house. And I've counted the steps. From my house to the mosque is 1,500 steps. So I'm hoping Allah will reward me every Friday for 1,500 years of worship, right? Because it's just one day in a week. Why can't we just abandon everything we are doing and do that? So that is how to generate ideas. But now you find it difficult to think, working? How does working help us to generate ideas? Let me tell you about an American novelist. He's actually the most successful American writer in history. Stephen King. Who knows Stephen King? He writes novels. Who has read his book? Most of what he writes is horror, right? And if you take Amazon, maybe 50% of the success of books on Amazon belongs to him. The remaining 50% is shared among the other writers. He said there was a time that he was stuck when he was writing. If you're a writer, you know that. You can relate. And his problem was he had so many characters that he didn't know what to do with them. They've outlived their purpose in the book. So how will he get rid of the characters without forcing the issue? So for many weeks, he was taking long walks. Then, at a point, he remembered what he read, where somebody said, if you want to get rid of a character, you should introduce somebody with a gun. Right? So he said, that's interesting. I'm not going to introduce someone with a gun, but I'm going to introduce somebody with a bomb. So he put all the extra characters in one room, and he bombed the room. And that solves the problem. Right? So taking walks help you. When I was doing my PhD, we had a very big campus. Sometimes you get stuck. When you are doing research work, you know where you want to go. But how to get there is usually difficult. So I would take long walks in the campus. And by the time you come back, you have a solution to unstuck yourself. So walking is very important. We go to Hajj, we go for Umrah, and we do a lot of walking, right? So in Islam, walking is favored. Even the 5 daily prayers, when you walk to 5 daily prayers, especially if you perform ablution at home, you are rewarded for the steps you take. In fact, it's said that you're already in prayers when you do that. So those are the 3 skills that you must cultivate. And besides any other skill you cultivate, these ones are constant. You must learn them, especially the speaking aspect of it. So who can remind me the 3 skills the professor advised us to learn? Quickly. 3 skills. Students, yes. I thought you were listening. Yes. My speaker at the... Speaking, writing, and the ability to generate ideas. Put your hands together for her. Now, that is for the elementary. That is basic, right? Then in your 30s, you have to be better than your colleagues in at least one thing, right? In at least one thing. And usually, you go into a new office when you start work, you try to find out, who is the best in that thing, that vocation. Then you do 10 times what that person is doing that made him the best, right? I remember there was a student in esteemed secondary school who came, and when he came, he said, who is the best student in this class? They said, that's him over there. He said, he's my competition. I said, that's a very wise move, right? The best person is your competition. You have no business with anybody below the best, right? And usually, being the best is about resilience. It's about patience. Indeed, in Europe now and America, in the Western Hemisphere, the most important skill they are trying to drill into their children is patience. And what did the Quran say? In Surah Al-Furqan, the last ayah, or second to the last, can't remember. When Allah is describing Ibadur Rahman, don't we have kuffars here? Where is that man that spoke before me? From which school? When Allah was describing Ibadur Rahman, وَإِذَا قَاتَلَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا Okay, the end. No. After that. أولئك يجزون الغرفة بما صبروا ويلقون فيها تحية وسلاما بما صبروا. The Quran is laden with bima صبروا. Those who patiently persevere. أولئك يجزون الغرفة. They are going to inherit what? The kingdom. They are going to inherit paradise, heaven, because of what they patiently persevere. Now psychology says if you have two twins, if one is patient and the other is not, or the one that is most patient, because everybody has some patience, right? The most patient is usually older. The most patient is usually younger than the impatient one by 1.5 years. And that was at the stage where that research was reported. It says that as they continue to age, the gap in their age will continue to widen. So the patient person will continue to be younger and younger and younger, while the impatient twin, their environment is the same, the parents the same, everything the same, right? And still, there is this, because of one variable, there is this difference, right? Also, psychologists have reported that the patient twin usually does better in school and also at work. That is why, because they know this, that is why they are trying to inculcate patience into their children. In fact, there is a tool now that you can use to see who is more patient among students. You just give them and they answer. It's a survey, right? And if they answer truly, you can tell and you can rank them according to who is the most patient. I'm dwelling on this because that's what I lack, right? And my parents noticed, and they continue to tell me, be patient, right? Aha. So that is very important.
So is it by look?
Eh?
Is it by their look?
You know, there is this test that medical practitioners do where they will tell you your biological age and also the chronological age. Yes, it's the biological age that is younger. Yes. So, which means the organs, everything, are fresher and younger. They are healthier, let's say that. So, that is it. With patience, you'll be able to do better than anybody you work with and become dependable, right? If you become dependable, you are not a thief, you are competent, everybody is going to gravitate towards you, right? Because every employer needs two things in an employee. And what the old man said to Musa, right? That, can you remind me? No, the old man that gave a wife to Musa. No, when he said the best person is the person. Very good. Kawiyun, Amin. Kawiyun, someone who has strength. Strength here means competence. Also physical strength, but also competence. You can do what you say you can do. You can walk, you can be relied upon. And I mean, we all know that. You are trustworthy. So if I have a competent staff who is also trustworthy, alhamdulillah, I'll go and sleep. But it's very difficult to get these two in an individual. of Nigeria were very competent, but they were thieves, right? And some were honest to a fault, but not competent, right? Aha. So try to get these two. Now, because there is not much time, after your 30s, when you hit 40, then you have crisis, right? You start thinking, what have I achieved with my life? Because that was what happened to me. On my 40th birthday, I was depressed. So what have I done? I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there. What have you done? Who have you helped? You know? What have you achieved for your hereafter? Right? So, and as I was contemplating, I spoke to the wife of my governor, and she said that same thing happened to her. She was about 3 years older than me, I think. So, this is how I resolved it. I said, from now on, I will stop doing several things, and I will concentrate on things that will not earn me income in this world, but they will continue to earn me the hereafter, right? And there is an answer from a hadith that says, after our death, 3 things continue, right? What is number 1? Sadaqatu Jariyah. Capital projects, right? Digging a well, planting trees, building mosques, building schools, etc. Right? It will continue even when you are gone. Number 2. Walad Salih, a child that will pray for you, right? And that is not very reliable, right? We don't know, we don't know what our children will become, right? Uh-huh. And that is why number 1 is more important. Build your capital projects when you are alive. Number 3, knowledge that benefits. Knowledge that benefits. So I said, I will concentrate on these 3. I'll try to get my children to be better so they can pray for me when I'm gone. And probably marry more wives so that I can get more children. So that I diversify the risks. So but the most important one is capital project. So I said, I like planting trees. So planting trees is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Right? And I also write. Writing will be what I'm going to use as knowledge that benefits. So that when I'm gone, people will still be using my knowledge. And in 2022, I launched 10 books in one day. Yes? And we started 200 million trees, took upon the goal of planting 1 tree for every Nigerian. In the last 4 months, we planted 800,000 trees. So, because of a lot of benefits in it. Trees are very easy to plant. It takes a lot of money to build a school or to build a mosque, but with 200 naira, I can buy a seedling and plant, right? And that tree can live for 35, 50 years. In fact, Mufti Menk said that if you plant a tree and you live for 80 years, the reward that you'll be getting from that tree will be times 10 of your lifespan. That is 800 years, right? That's 1 tree. So what if you plant millions or thousands? So that is how I was able to resolve the crisis and the depression of my of getting old, right? If you want to do yours may be just, building wells, digging wells, or building schools, or whatever. They are in the Quran. The capital projects are in the Quran. Or feeding people. If you want some of them, you go to SDGs. SDGs. What are SDGs? Sustainable Development Goals. We have 17 of them there. Most of them align with Islam. So you can just choose one. You say, this is what I'm going to do as my legacy. Right? So I think I'm going to stop here. There are other speakers that will come after me, and I don't want to bore you with my boring stories. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.